Welcome to the Giggle, the Weave, and the Wham Show. I am your host, Tonya Hofmann. I'm the CEO and founder of the Public Speakers Association, amongst everything else that I do because, I hate being bored. And because of that, I connect myself with the most amazing people. And today is probably the ultimate on pedestal, hanging on to it, I'm sure, is Mr. Scott Schilling. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Tonya, always fun. We always have a good time together. Have you noticed that?
I know,
Why is
right?
that?
If you're not
Because
having
we're so
fun,
serious.
I know. So the other day, people were like, "You just have so much fun." I'm like, "Well, stop hanging around the people you're hanging around with, I guess."
It's a good point.
So let's get into the show. And there's so many things that I know I giggle about, especially things that I do, and I'm like, "Really, Tanya? Do you really did that?" And so, can you share with us a giggle point in your life?
It's funny when you first asked that before. I can think of a couple that just popped up, and I coach intuitively, so I might as well do this intuitively. The first is, as a professional speaker, many times people are not critical of you, but they expect you to be so dang perfect all the time. And quite frankly, I know both you and I, we work hard to be as perfect as we can be, but every once in a while there's that outtake or that silliness that comes through. And so if somewhere along the way I mispronounce a word or I do something, the common response, it's almost like I've been conditioned to do it now, is, well, I am a professional speaker, so I actually butcher the word purposely. But I was doing a presentation in front of a group of, actually, this hasn't happened since yesterday. I was in corporate America with an entire room full of analyticals, right? I mean, these were the computer programmers of the world, the coders, the double E's, the mechanical engineers. There was more engineers in this room than possible. And at some point, I kind of looked off to the side, and I don't know what caught my eye or what happened, but you get that instance where all of a sudden you forget where you are.
Right.
Where you are in your presentation, what your thought process was. You kind of draw that little bit of blank, right? And so I sat there and I just looked at the audience and I started laughing. And so you see their looks. It's like, what's going on? This guy's standing here laughing in front of us. And all of a sudden I went, "Oh, sorry, I just told myself a joke." And then I went on. And everybody was like, "That was so refreshing." Afterwards they were coming up and just going, it's, and I said, I made a decision back in December, and I think I shared this with you. You and I were talking about it. I said, all of a sudden, and you would think I would have made this decision a whole lot earlier in my life, but I just made the decision. I refuse to go into 2019 and do anything that doesn't bring me joy.
Exactly.
I'm not going to work with people that don't bring me joy. I'm not going to put myself in situations that don't bring me joy. And it's amazing how I've said no to a lot of things. I've probably said no to more things this year than I ever have. But I've said yes to some great things, like was announced today, the Think and Grow Rich World Tour, and some events like that are going to be just fabulous because the other speakers and the people that are involved are the only thing they want to do is serve humanity.
Yes.
Man, how good is that, right?
That's
So
exactly.
that brings a smile to my face just thinking about it.
Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. And that's one of the things I adore about you. It's you've been around the speaking world for a really, really long time. And
That hurts. Not here, right here.
and you've seen everything, kind of people come and go and I think a lot of times people forget that we are still in the moment. Every day we're in the moment. And that kind of brings us to our weep section of the show about something that kind of changed your life.
Well, what changed my life was going through a near-death experience, and I'm an overachiever. I lived. So the I was going to a speaking event, balanced a box of books on my knee, flipped open the back of my SUV at the time. As fast as I threw it up, it came down, hit me in the back of the head. And what I didn't know at the time, I mean, about cold cocked me. It knocked me straight for sure. Um, was that it dissected the pica in my brain. The pica is the posterior interior cerebellum artery. So a dissection is where the inner and outer walls of the vessel separate. So all of a sudden, I had this flap going on in my brain. Now, I did have a headache for 8 days, but I am a guy, which means I did nothing about it, except ask my wife, why do I have a headache? And she said, well, you hit your head. And I went, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense. Um, but uh, literally 8 days later, I was walking along in Universal City Walk. I was out in LA shooting infomercials at the time for a client, and I was walking along, and all of a sudden my legs stopped, and I looked down, and I was on two tingling stumps from just above the knees down. I looked at my right foot and said, "Move," and it said no, and I said, "Move," and it said no. And we had a little argument for a while, not long, because then I started getting disoriented and falling backwards. And luckily, there was a railing. I grabbed it. I was walking with 7 friends, 3 of them doctors. Coincidence? I think not. Um, Godsidence, yes. They slid a chair underneath me. I sat down. I looked at one of them, and he goes, you could just see this concerned look on his face. And all of a sudden, he goes, "What's your phone number?" And I belted out my phone number. I go, "Why the heck would you ask me that now? Can't you see I can't walk?" "Oh, no reason." Well, I was in the middle of a full blown cerebellum stroke at that point. And anybody who understands the cerebellum, it's responsible for speech, memory, fine motor skills, walking, talking, vertigo. Um, Not the thing that you want affected if you're a professional speaker.
Right.
And, just I went to the emergency room, was there 5 hours, and it was released with a major migraine. To say they missed it is an understatement. Um, Went on set the next day, shot 3 TV shows, went to a neurologist. He said, "I want a MRI. I want to see what's going on." And couldn't get that till the next day. Fully 48 hours afterwards, his first words: "Get your ass to the hospital. Check into ICU. You've had a stroke." Then I spent 6 days in intensive care.
Wow.
And bewilderment, confusion. Um, Even though I knew that how bad I hurt and everything that was going on, and um, when I was released from the emergency room, I went back to my hotel, and the pain was so bad I cried out, "God help!" And I heard an audible, "Drop to your knees," and prayed, and that's where I had a very cool experience climbing onto a cloud and things like that. But the what you start to understand, I think, is more of what it's all about. And we're all going to have the giggle moments. The question is, do we take them?
Mm-hmm.
We're all going to have the weep moments. More than likely, we take them for whatever reason, even though they're not the good ones. We take those. And then the wham moments, maybe we take them, maybe we're not, because we get afraid of them, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, not long ago, I did another TV show with another mutual friend of ours, and it was so wild because she said, coming through a near death experience, you had to ask yourself a lot of questions. What questions did you ask yourself? And I went, "What now?"
Yeah.
And then I went, "Wait a second. I have never asked myself that question. Why would I come up with that now?" And all of a sudden I saw all these opportunities, and so many that you know about, that you and I have talked about over the last 3 or 4 years, right? All these different things that either haven't worked the way they were supposed to, or all that kind of stuff. And I went, well, God wouldn't have saved me for that,
Mhm.
or that's not big enough, or that's not important. And all of a sudden I went, have I been doing that? Really? And so it's the waking up.
Mhm.
And like I said, it literally was the middle of December when I said, I'm not going to do anything that doesn't bring me joy.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing. So yesterday I talked to this very eclectic group, and I do 7 steps to leadership legacy. And it's a unique talk for that kind of group. Well, I mean, it's what they ask for, but and I had 3 people come up afterwards and say that was so powerful. I know this is probably inappropriate. Can I get a copy of your slides?
Mhm.
And it was like, and I answered everybody appropriately, but the last gentleman was, in fact, not only do I do this job, but I'm also the pastor of a church. And my leadership team really needs to, what you did today was powerful. They really need to hear this. He
Nice.
said, I know it's inappropriate. Can I get your slides? And I looked at him square in the eye and I said, absolutely not, unless I can deliver the presentation to your team.
Awesome.
And he said, you would do that? And I said, I would. And he said, we can't pay you. I said, I didn't ask to be paid.
Right.
So you do those things and you go, oh, I didn't plan on doing that. And I didn't plan on answering that way. Right. It was just like, I guess it was that wake up moment from that weep, right? It's okay, you saved me. You know what? Every interaction is important. That's why when you said, hey, I got this new show, I said, oh, I want to be on. Okay. Right. I mean, if nothing else, maybe I cheer you up. I don't know. Not with that story, but maybe a better one.
So, what is your wham? What's the thing that if you looked back and you could tell yourself when you were younger, um, to kind of slap you and go, wham, this is what we need to focus on, or don't do this, what would that be?
Well, the reality is everything and every experience is there for your benefit, good, bad, or indifferent. So number one, start to recognize that earlier. Even the stuff you don't like happening is there for your benefit. It might be to teach you a lesson, or again, you get hit in the head by your car, you might want to get yourself checked out before 8 days. I mean, yeah,
You think?
duh, right? So the wham
You
really
did better
becomes,
than my husband. It took him 2 weeks to get to the doctor. So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just I think the wham is understand, and there's a pretty good book, and most people forget part of the information from this section, but it starts, as we know, all things work for our good. A lot of people know the all things work for our good, but they don't know as we know, because I don't think they really know. I mean, I don't think they really accept that all things work to your good. It doesn't mean all things will be pleasant. It doesn't mean all things will be yippee skippy. It doesn't mean that all things will not be painful. It doesn't mean all things will be fun. It says all things work to your good. And so when I think the real wham it's really interesting, because as soon as I kind of made that declaration, I'm not going to do anything that doesn't bring me joy, a couple
right.
things happened. Some really crummy things started happening. But some really great things started happening.
Yeah.
And I took the really crummy things and I said, I refuse to participate in that.
Nice.
And as soon as I refused to participate in it, those subsided. It was like another test. It was again, the first declaration was, I'm going to live in joy. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, we'll see about that. Right. Let me send you some non joy kind of stuff. Right. And so I think the real wham is just really listen to it and get convicted in it and understand that all of it's there to help get you to where you're supposed to be. And wherever you are is absolutely perfect. You hear people say that and they go, oh, that's so trite. Maybe it is, but it's true. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. You've gone through exactly what you're supposed to have gone through. You've experienced exactly what you're supposed to experience because then you can take and make the next level of decisions from there. And so the wham is, you know, I'm still got lots of stuff to do and lots of years to do it in. Now, don't take for granted the one thing that I would encourage everybody to understand, not a single day is guaranteed.
Exactly.
So don't wait. I mean, follow your heart, follow your passion, laugh more, be silly, be goofy. Let somebody tell you, gosh, I thought you were much more serious than that. Why the hell would I want to be like that? Right? Why wouldn't I want to be a goof?
I know. I
I
remember
mean,
that moment when I just gave myself permission to be myself, and I said, if someone doesn't like this goofy Tonya, then they don't have to hang around me. They don't have to watch my shows. They don't have to, be a part of what I'm a part of. And actually, that's even better for me.
well, that's exactly it. All of a sudden you find out it's really cool. So I received one of the greatest compliments of my career the other day. And it was a friend whose wife was reading a book that another friend of mine wrote back in 2007ish. And in the acknowledgments, he acknowledged me for helping him launch that book and do a variety of different things. Okay. That was very nice. I didn't even know I was in there. Serious. And so this guy reaches out to me and he said, my wife was reading Greg's book and he acknowledged you in the book. I didn't know that you knew him. I said, oh, we shared the stage for the first time together in 2005 in Costa Mesa, California. I said, I've known him forever. And she said, this acknowledgement in this book is so cool. And yet Scott never said a word about that to us. It's like it's not his friend was important. He's not.
Yeah.
And she said, that's just such a cool attribute. And so this guy writes me and he says, my wife's telling me how wonderful you are. How can I get her to say that about me? you know, it was just a great compliment, because again, I think sometimes, you work hard to do just good things and help people and whatever. And sometimes you get thanked and sometimes you don't. And, and, and sometimes we're human. We like to hear it. So it's
Yes,
cool to hear, right? So
always.
thanks
So,
for having me on your show. You're awesome.
oh, thank you. You're fabulous. So, yay. It's a
Yeah,
win-win.
that's right. Yeah,
And
yes.
you have something you're giving away to our incredible listeners today.
Yeah, I wrote this book right back here, Talking with Giants. And there's actually 21 charities tied to the book. And I would love to give everybody a free digital download copy of it. They can go to twgfreegift.com and please download it'll ask you for your name and email address, and then we'll send you a copy of the book, 164 pages. Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen, Harvecker, Cynthia Kersey, the CEO Kimberly Clark, a friend that owns the Long Drive of America group. Just stories about some great, great, great people.
That's awesome. So TGW?
TWG, Talking with Giants, TWGfreegift.com.
There you go. All right, everyone. So go to it right now, grab your copy, and get connected with Scott. Guys,